Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Rob Swanson back in the studio. We've got a fun one coming at you today. We're going to be talking about virtual real estate investing. We're going to be talking about what went wrong in 2023. How do you fix it in 2024? Whether you're brand new or an experienced real estate investor. We got a partial crew in the studio today. We got Joe around the corner on the buttons.
Crew. Hey, what's happening, everybody?
We got Mike sitting here on the couch. Joe on the buttons. What's cracking?
Hey.
Oh, nothing's cracking.
Joe just took his headset off. He's back.
The producer of the show takes his headset off and starts walking away.
Here's what he thinks. Rob started talking. My work is done.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, no, my work had started. I need to go adjust camera too. So, Mike, take it away.
Take it away, Mike.
Yeah.
Taking.
All right.
Hey, quick update. I got a couple fun ones. First one, family side. We're going to the stock show tomorrow. And so, just being honest, one of my favorite things has become taking our kids to a rodeo. We throw them in their little boots. We got them hats. And we're going to go down and act like we own cattle.
I love it.
Tomorrow for a day. So I'm actually really excited about that. But, so Rob, I was telling you about this before. I was working with one of our coaching students end of last week in the Mogul program. And what's not unique, but what's cool about these three, there's three people on the team. And it's a father and his two kids, which I think is cool that the family business is real estate. And so what they're doing, they went through the 100 offer challenge that we did last summer, right?
Yeah.
And they had some success with it. And so what they told me is we're going to ramp up. We're going to start to do more of that, right? And side note, they bought a deal during the 100 offer challenge, or they put it under contract during the 100 offer challenge last year that they bought. And then it was, they bought a tenant-occupied rental. The lady who's in there, their tenant, the lease was up about 45 days ago. And what they did is they said, hey, we could either put a new lease together for her or we could set up our first owner finance deal.
Yep.
And so they ran some numbers. Her rent is only going to increase $15 or $20 from what it was, and she's going to become the buyer. They're currently working to get her qualified through a local LO.
Nice.
All right. So they showed me the numbers on that. It'll be $70,000 to $75,000 in interest based on the agreed upon. Now she has to qualify for it.
Yep.
But that came out of the 100 offer challenge, which is killer. So then they said, we want to do more of this. And I said, okay, tell me what your process is going to be. And they said, well, there's three of us and we're all going to make daily offers. And I said, that's great. What are you going to do for follow-up? And they said, hadn't put a whole lot of thought into it yet. So here's what we did. They're going to send out the offer, and when they do that in FreedomSoft, that's going to trigger a status change to offer sent. So they know, right? So they can stay organized. Who have we sent an offer to, who have we not?
Yep.
Then I walked them through, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that status, and we're going to add a direct mail sequence to it. And so they've got, now what they have is the offer is going to go out, and they're going to update the status, right? As soon as that status updates in FreedomSoft, it's going to trigger a direct mail sequence. 14 days later, it's going to fire off a postcard. Hey, did you get our offer 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
And then that's going to move into about a 30-day cycled regular drip.
Yep.
And what was fun about it is this is what technology is supposed to do, right?
That's right.
You set it up one time. There's a little bit of setup. Everybody knows that, right? A system has to be built to some degree. For the most part, though, in FreedomSoft, it's built. We're just doing plug and play.
That's right.
Right? So we adjusted the timing. And so now what's going to happen is we're going to take their efforts, we're going to make them more efficient, we're going to amplify what they're doing all through automation. We're going to take what they were doing anyway, and so they're going to go start making, all three of them, make offers on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. Then they're going to update that status, then that's going to trigger a sequence.
Nice.
And so it was fun to take their situation, and they said, okay, here's what we want to do, right, which is in line with where we're having them go anyway with the program, and then say, okay, I love what you're doing, but let's put this on steroids, and we can do all this in about 20 to 30 minutes and build it out, bam, 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 bam. And now they have a really effective system built that's going to just amplify what they already set out to do, which is that's what technology and systems that's how it's supposed to be used.
That's exactly how it's supposed to be used. Yeah.
It's fun for me to talk about it. It was fun to be on the call with them.
Yeah.
It was fun to help them build and set up.
Yep.
And here's what was cool. I showed them, here's how we're going to think about this, and here's how you're going to do it. So next time,
Yeah.
they're going to be like, hey, this is what Mike showed us how to do last time. Let's go do this.
Yep.
And now, from now until they're done calling themselves real estate investors at some point in the future, they know, okay, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Let's go build out a quick system for it, and let's ramp up or amplify our efforts automated.
Here's what you just said. They now have a system that was plug and play with FreedomSoft. You put a little bit of customization to it for their specific business, their specific team, their structure, right? But at the end of the day, now when their feet hit the floor, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and repeat, they know exactly what to do. See, that's the sign of a well-designed system. Number one, you've got to get the knowledge, and you got to make sure that you're focused in the right direction and you're actually moving towards the proper destination.
Yep.
And then what you've got to do is you got to step back and say, okay, now that I know the focus, I know the direction I need to be pointed, because I know that the destination that I want to hit or arrive at, you then say, do I have a system in place that helps me efficiently do that? Because as Mike, you've talked about in the past, everybody has a system. The question is it a good system or a bad system?
That's the question.
Right. And so since everybody has a system, what you just got off a call with was you took the system that we taught for free, the 100 Offer Challenge last year, that they followed and actually made money, bought a deal off of this free 5-day challenge, did a deal. And now they're coming back and saying, okay, that worked. Because you know what most people do? They do something that works and then they stop doing it. And then they wonder why they're not having success. Wait a minute. Go back to the thing that actually worked and do more of the thing that worked. And so that's what they're doing into 2024. They're going back to the thing that worked. They're doing more of what worked, and they're going to now, as you said, amplify it with system. I want to back up. Do you know the numbers on this? Talk to me about the deal. Do you know what they bought and what they're selling it for, owner financing? Do you know what their general spreads are?
No. No, I don't. I can bring it to a future podcast, though.
Yeah, so
I have an email from them, and I don't recall exactly, but this is a run-of-the-mill 3-bed, 1-bath, lower market price, and selling it for 65 to 70 grand owner financed.
Okay, they're selling it 65 to 70 grand.
I think they bought it, if I remember right, I think they bought it for 40 to 45-ish.
Gotcha.
Somewhere in there.
And did they have to? Oh, it was already occupied, so they didn't have to put any money into it. It was
occupied, and instead of renewing the lease,
they
approached the tenant and said, "Hey,
would you be interested in buying it?"
Yeah. And the tenant was fired up about it.
Yeah. Now, do you know? Does the tenant have any money to put down?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Because I will tell anybody that asks me about owner financing, how do I know the answer to this question? Ask me that someday. I can tell you stories. If you don't get at least 10% down, the likelihood of that owner finance deal turning into a foreclosure increases exceedingly high. If you can get 20% down from an owner finance buyer, the likelihood that it's going to turn into a foreclosure or turn bad is pretty low. Like, that's why banks, require 20% down on owner-occupied houses. They've got all the math. They've got all the stats.
That's right.
And at 20% down, even in a non-bankable owner finance scenario, non-traditionally bankable, 20% is the key. You go below 20%. 20 down to 10, and you're increasing certainly your risk and your exposure to a foreclosure. Once you get to 10% and below, that risk accelerates and goes up on a steeper hockey stick curve.
I would
And
believe
so
that. Yep.
I would definitely, as we're coaching these folks and talking to them, let's make sure that they understand just because somebody is excited about doing owner financing doesn't necessarily mean that it's in their best interest as the investor, unless there's some skin in the game. Otherwise, they're just exposing themselves to a greater risk that is a messier thing to clean up.
Yep. I'll get some more details on it. We were, our conversation was primarily on, here's what we're going to do. Here's the systems we have created. So, yep.
I like it.
Good
I like
stuff.
it. Cool. Well, here's, so one of the questions that we get all the time, and this comes because of, I guess, my investment thesis, which is I like to invest in markets that make sense. One of the tenets of my investment thesis is that the market will do more to build your wealth than you can ever do through strategy, effort, and smarts. The market will do more for you than you can do for yourself. And so my investment thesis is let's use the market to our advantage as much as possible. Now, what that means is you don't have to become a market predictor. I'm not saying that we're going to predict the market, that we're going to forecast when something is going to happen, and that we're trying to, be, Johnny on the spot mystic, right? That's not what the game is here. The game, though, is to recognize that markets are different, and all real estate strategies work in all markets at all times. It just so happens that some real estate strategies work in some markets better at some times. And so if you can match the strategy to the market at the right time, you can accelerate yourself way far ahead of the curve. And so that's one of the tenets that I subscribe to, and that Mike, that you've learned under, and that we teach and coach people around. And that's a step for some people to initially say, I'm going to invest out of my backyard, because people feel like because real estate is a tangible, hard, touchable asset, that they need to be able to drive down the street, look at it, touch it, smell it, feel it. And the truth of the matter is, the sooner you can disconnect your need to touch the real estate physically, the faster you move to a place where you are in a position that you can take advantage of market moves, okay? And then what we do is we try to put the right strategies in place in the right markets at the right time to accelerate our results. Inside of the Mogul Academy, the thing that we teach a lot is a virtual market investing model. That is the core focus for phase one of the Freedom Formula, which is a cash generation phase. So in phase one of the Freedom Formula, you're focusing on using real estate strategies in certain markets at certain times in what we'll call an easy profit city to produce cash. And that is a core tenet of the strategy that we teach in a market. Now, an easy profit city, as we've talked about on other shows, is defined by a real estate city or a market, a location, a geography that is the fastest time frame or speed to both getting a lead and getting a closed deal across the finish line, i.e. getting a payday. An easy profit city is a city that, using certain strategies, is going to get you to a payday the fastest. That's how we define an easy profit city. Now, the reason we define it that way, or that's the ultimate end goal result of investing remotely in an easy profit city, is because it allows somebody to now disconnect their geography where they live from where they invest, and so they can take advantage of markets across the country that are in a position to help them produce the best results. And so, Mike, I know you talk to people about this all the time. what I want to do is I want to dive in so that people have a clear understanding of, okay, if I'm hearing this and I'm excited to do that, how do I go about it? How do we coach people to tackle investing virtually?
Yes. First of all, it's a great question. I want to say this really quick. My experience has been people come into coaching and they say, well, I bought a house before and it went a certain way. And of course they went and looked at it first. And then they say, okay, now I'm going to buy houses as an investor. And they just take, here's what the process was when I bought a house to live in, and they moved it over here.
Yep.
Until we very quickly shatter that and say, nope. There's some similarities, but
Sure.
there's some very distinct differences.
Yep.
All right. And then I use an example as a wholesaler. For somebody that understands wholesaling, I'm going to put a property under contract at one price. I'm going to look to find a buyer at another price, and I'm going to get paid in the middle. Just like people wholesale, there are wholesalers that work between farmers and grocery stores,
Yep.
jewelry industry, car business. People wholesale every commodity on the planet. We just happen to do it with real estate, right? So wholesaling isn't a new concept. And then I ask him this question. So I try to, and this just came from talking to hundreds and hundreds of students over the years. And I was like, okay, how am I going to explain this? So here's where I landed. See if this is helpful. But I said, let's say, for instance, you're a wholesaler and you ran some marketing in your own backyard. And you put a property under contract that was 3 blocks away. But your life was busy. And so you just got it under contract and you intended to go see it, but you didn't have time because of a medical something or something. And you called up a buyer that you knew and you said, hey, I just put a property under contract. I think you'll be interested. I haven't had time to go look at it, but here's the address. Here's the lockbox. We have permission to get inside. Can you go see it today? Right? And the buyer said, yeah, I'm actually in the neighborhood. And they walk over, they see it, and they call you back. And, you gave them a price. Hey, I'm looking to sell it for 60 grand. And the buyer calls you back and says, hey, I'll take it. Why?
Easy money.
Why do you have to go see the property?
Right.
And what happens is they come to the realization that I don't. Okay, now take said market or the geography and change the 3 blocks to 3,000 miles.
Right.
Why do you have to go see it? And I think where it lands is because I've done this over and over is they kind of go, okay, good point.
Yep.
And they start to move in the direction of, or their mind starts to open a little, right? The door starts to open a little bit to going, yeah.
Yep.
Actually, that does make sense.
And here's where
if it was 3 blocks away.
Here's where I think people land on answering that question or running into that brick wall. They say, well, I know 3 blocks away, I know the neighborhood. Three blocks away, I know the street. I know the house. I know what it's like. 3,000 miles away, I don't. And people have this bridge that they can't cross from 3 blocks to 3,000 miles because they lack the framework that we teach.
Right.
If you understand that East Coast to West Coast, Canada to Mexico, a house is a house is a house, right? A front door is a front door, a bathroom's a bathroom's a bathroom, right? If you understand the general that real estate is essentially the same with some local nuance, right? Sometimes it's stick built versus block built. Sometimes, you got to deal with hurricane construction. Sometimes you got to, there's no basements in this area, and basements are, the norm here.
Right.
Like there's some local geographic nuance, but in general, 3 blocks to 3,000 miles, the analysis of the real estate is relatively the same. And so people, and especially using the framework that we teach to say, okay, I'm going to go 3,000 miles away. I'm going to look at this neighborhood, this zip code, this city, this geography, and I'm going to figure it out. And once you can classify that house and that neighborhood and what's going on in it, all of a sudden your exit strategy and the price you need to pay getting in, the price you should accept going out, and why somebody can make money with that house, right? That's at the end of the day the number one question. If I were to buy this house, or if someone were to buy this house, how will they make money with it? How's an investor going to make money? When you get good at answering that question in any city across the country and understand just the fundamentals of deal pricing, the entire country becomes your oyster.
Right. And
That's
let's
fun.
clarify something. Wholesalers, or those of you that want to be wholesalers, you're not selling real estate.
Right.
You're selling profit, potential profit.
Yep.
But you are selling income to the end buyer.
Yep.
It happens via a commodity called real estate. But make no mistake, nobody on the buyer side says, I just want to buy another house.
Right.
Nope. They want more fix and flip income, buy, renovate, sell, like the TV shows, or they want long-term income,
Cash
buy,
flow.
fix up if it needs it, tenant,
Yep.
long-term. They are not buying a house. The house is the vehicle
Yep.
that allows them to buy income.
That's right.
So let's not get this tripped up because we think we're buying and selling home. Well, wholesalers say, look at this house. What about this house? You're not selling a house. When you can get your head around this, that you're selling income
Yep.
and the house is the vehicle that provides it, your sales message changes and you become more effective talking to buyers.
Yep.
So as an
You know, a good case in point on that, I bought a house in San Antonio one time, and just a weird little house. Like, it was a tiny little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, probably 780 square feet, so pretty tiny. It sat off of a road that had no curb and gutter, so the road just kind of went into, like, think of a ditch or kind of into a grassy area, but not really a boulevard. Like, you know, we're not in a nice enough area to have a boulevard, but we can have a ditch, right?
Yep.
And so we got the road, and then the ditch kind of went down. Maybe there was like a 2.5 to 3 foot slope down to the house, and then the house sat on a slab. But and there was no basement. But the slab basically was like down in this pool, like because of the slope of the ditch.
Yeah.
And then the slab of the house sat level with the dirt.
Okay.
So like when you walked in, you walked off of the grass or like the little concrete square, 1-inch square that they had poured in front of the front door. And you didn't step up into the house, you stepped straight.
Okay.
And so this house sat low, like the grading was messed up.
Yeah.
Right? It looked a little bit weird. And so I'm telling this story because on first blush, it just looks like a normal house. But then you, as a trained eye, as an investor, you look at it and you say, okay, well, what are the potential problems with this? Like, to get this house back operating, whether it be a fix and flip or whether it be a buy and hold, what are the problems that I'm going to deal with? And you don't realize how much you notice that every house you step into, you step up into until you walk through a front door where you don't.
Right. Because I was trying to think if I've ever done this.
Yeah. It almost never happens.
Right.
You always step up into the house, even if it's slab grade level.
Right.
There's one step.
Because it sits above the yard.
It sits a little bit above the yard. And so when I say that a house is a house is a house and a front door is a front door is a front door, that is true. Until you walk through a house and into the front door and it feels different, and you get into the little living room area that you walk into and you're like, that felt odd.
Right.
Why did that feel odd? And you turn around and you look and you're like, oh, look at that. And then you kind of look at the grading around. And so what this made me do as an investor, so I bought this house and then just resold it to another investor. Mm-hmm. And I needed to price this deal low enough so that the investor that bought it from me could come in and put a drain tile in, because there was no grade. There was no step up in grade. And so I knew that the problem with this house was going to be grading and water.
Right.
And so I knew that whoever bought this was going to have to put in, or was going to want to put in, some kind of a French drain tile around the perimeter of the house to keep the water out. And so when I made my offer and ultimately bought the place, I had that in mind. That was extra rehab work that a normal house you might not consider. But because I was there and I walked through the house. I felt it. And so guess what that has informed and trained me to look for on deals. I look at grading. I look at the front step.
Similar
Is there a
foundation,
step up?
foundation stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this house there was no foundation issue.
Right.
It was just a funky grade.
Yeah.
And so, this is every deal you do teaches you, as an investor, teaches you something. And that little house in San Antonio, Texas taught me something. It taught me now when I do and this is a process we teach. We always teach the walk up, the walk through, and the walk around. How do you look at an investment property?
Yep.
Part of my walk up now is to evaluate, is there a step up into the front door?
Right. Only took once.
It only took once.
You'll likely never buy another house with the same issue.
I probably won't.
Yeah.
And I'll look every time.
Every time.
And if I do, I'll catch it and I'll see it.
Right.
And, that's just a side interesting story that when we're talking about, investing remotely or investing across the country, that is now something that I just put into the arrow, an arrow in my quiver, that as part of my walk up, and I'm talking about a virtual walk up here, right? Yep. So one of the things that we teach is how do you get somebody to properly get you pictures and videos of a house? And, because if you invest remotely, you're going to find boots on the ground, or you're going to find somebody local that's going to go out for between $25 and $50 on every house. They're going to walk through and they're going to take pictures. They're going to take pictures from the outside, from all angles, the inside from all angles, and the walk up, the walk through, and the walk around. The walk around gets the backyard and the sides, and the walk up gets the sides and the front street. And, it's a process that we teach, but the reason we teach it is because to invest virtually, if you do your process the same every time, you end up with, depending on the size of the house, the number of bedrooms, you end up with somewhere between 60 and 80 pictures, and you end up with a 6 to 8 minute video.
Yep.
Every single time. So if you're a wholesaler, part of systematizing your business is systematizing what information do you need to get on the due diligence side, and how do you figure that out? Well, we do a virtual walk up, walk through, and walk around.
Yep.
Somebody goes there and takes all the appropriate pictures. Somebody shoots the appropriate videos. And, one of the things that we always teach people to do is, hey, when you get your picture taker and they're going to go out there with their iPhone and shoot video, number one, have them slow down, because what happens is they just move too fast, right?
Right.
So number one, slow down.
Yep.
But number two, tell me what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you feel.
All but taste.
Yeah, don't tell me what you taste. That's
right.
Probably a bad one.
That's
But
right.
tell me the other four senses.
For sure.
Right? Feel. I feel a slanted floor. I feel a squishy floor.
There are floors that look straight that are not straight.
Right.
And your feet will tell you.
Right. Here, I hear overhead power lines buzzing.
Right.
Like that are going right over the top of the house.
Right.
Well, if you're doing this deal remotely, if you're going to wholesale this deal remotely, and you find these things, right? There's what do I hear? What do I feel? What do I smell? Oh, we're right next to the meat packaging plant. It doesn't smell good, right? What do I see? Well, the backyard opens to a small little cemetery. Like see, hear, feel, all those things. When you get that information as part of your due diligence remotely, you now know that I have to adjust my price for these things. And the picture and the video, without a description from the person doing it of the senses that they're experiencing, you won't pick that up in picture and video. And so then you'll make a certain offer. Buyers will go by the house and they'll ghost you. They'll just move on, because it's not that they're ghosting you because they're mad. It's they're ghosting you because they're busy. They're like, that deal doesn't work, moving on. They're not even thinking about you or that address again because they're looking for their next deal. And if you don't get your virtual picture taker to tell you the senses story, you'll never understand why people are not interested, because to you on paper and in pictures, it looks amazing.
Right.
But the person on the ground there is experiencing something different. So part of successfully flipping virtually is understanding, getting the read on those sensory things in your due diligence so that you can price the deal properly ahead of time.
Right.
Hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. What we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year.
And then I like to call those out. I'm talking to a buyer. Let's say there are power lines.
Yep.
Hey, when you show up, there's power lines zipping right over the backyard. Counted for it in the price.
Yep.
But just expect to see them. You're going to hear them too.
100%.
Train tracks, busy street, funky grade that you're going to have to put in.
Yep.
All that stuff. Just call it. Don't let it be a issue when the potential buyer shows up. Just tell them, hey, here's what you're going to go see.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, it stinks. It's by the meatpacking plant.
Yep.
Up in Greeley. So be it.
Right.
That's what living in Greeley's like, right? For everybody in Greeley, Colorado, they know there's a smell coming out of Greeley.
Right.
So, yeah, you can just get it before it's an issue. Just throw it on the table.
Exactly.
Imagine that. Now it's not an issue.
Yeah, the better you get at throwing the elephant in the room to the front of the room, as a wholesaler, the better off you are, because people are going to figure it out, right? And so, how did we get here? We got here because of your story, 3 blocks away to 3,000 miles away, and we just help people bridge that gap by recognizing that their boots on the ground picture taker, right? That guy or gal you got off a Craigslist or a Facebook ad post or whatever, that you're going to pay $25 to $50 to go out there with an iPhone or an Android, take pictures and upload everything to a Google Drive folder. The better you are at explaining to them what you want and what you need, the more equipped you are going to be to price this deal correctly so that you can go sell money, because you're selling a payday.
That's right.
And to your point,
I was just going to say this really quick. When there's an elephant on the deal and you don't disclose it, first person, that buyer, they walk up and they go, oh, there's power lines here. Why didn't Mike tell me that? I wonder what else he's not telling me.
Right.
And they're automatically, even if they're there by themselves, their defenses are up.
Yep.
The flip side is also true.
Yep.
Hey, here's what you're going to see. The grade's kind of funky and there are power lines going through the backyard.
Yep.
We took care of that in the price. Then they show up and they go, well, if there was something else wrong because of the way Mike just said that, he would have told me about it.
Yep.
Rest of the house is probably good. I don't think it happens consciously.
Yep.
It 100% happens subconsciously.
Totally. I flipped a house wholesale in Indianapolis. Okay, so another second story, San Antonio, Indianapolis. And this house was just like your classic 2-story just rental house. Okay, it wasn't a fix and flip. It was a buy and hold. And 2 things generally happen in that case when it's a buy and hold. A long-term investor is oftentimes willing to pay more than a short-term investor. The short-term investor needs to create all that equity to get in and out with a profit.
Right.
A long-term investor is going to make their money from the cash flow that is paid outside of the deal itself. So, number one, this little house, 2-story, classic, classic rental. I think it was a 3-bedroom,
3-1
one
or
and a half.
3-2? Okay.
It was 1.5, so 3-2.
Okay. Yep.
3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yep.
But the upstairs back bedroom, if you dropped a marble in the center of the floor, it just shot to the one corner, like
Yep.
the northeast corner,
Yep.
right? There was probably a 2.5-inch just tilt
Yep.
in the upstairs in this back bedroom. And so I was working with my guy who was the boots on the ground, and he's there. And while he's there, he calls me and says, "Hey, I don't know that this one's going to work. It's in pretty rough shape." And I said, "Describe rough shape." And he goes, "This back bedroom just slopes like 2.5 feet." And I said, "Okay, do me a favor. Go downstairs, go outside, and walk to that northwest corner
Yep.
and tell me what you see." Okay, what am I looking for? Do you see any cracks? Do you see, are the windows that kind of butt up towards that corner, are they off kilter? Are they
Yep.
are they broken? Are they cracked? Look at the eaves. Look at the corner of the roof line.
Roof line, yep.
Look at those things. Does it look like things have settled, sunk? Like, what's causing it? Okay, let's start there. He goes outside. He's like, "Yeah, a little bit. I can see a little bit, but it doesn't look horrible." I said, "Okay, go inside. Go down into the unfinished basement. Go to that same corner. What do you see? Do you see cracks in the wall? What do you see?" And at the end of the day, it was a very, very simple fix. And it was a structurally sound house that had, over the years, a bit of settlement and a bit of just movement. It was an older house in, Indianapolis.
Yep.
And so, long story short, I just kind of walked him through the math of, what do you have to do as an investor that buys this? How do you analyze the additional rehab costs of this deal because of this structural issue? So when I look at a rehab, I always look at just a standard house rehab. And what that means is there's no extra stuff. There's no mold. There's no structural. There's no asbestos. There's no
No grading in the front yard.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Nothing crazy outside.
yeah, nothing crazy,
Yeah.
but it's the big ones, right? It's mold, it's structural damage, asbestos, meth, and termites. Those are my big 5. If those one of those or multiple of those exist, I take them and I set them aside. And I say, first, what would it take to rehab this house if that didn't exist?
That's right.
And then what I do is I say, okay, now we have the rehab cost of this house if there wasn't a structural issue and if I wasn't dealing with this mold.
Yep.
Then we say, okay, well, how am I going to tackle the structural issue? What's my cost to fix structural going to be? And then what's my cost to remediate the mold? And so I add those 5, one or multiples of those 5 onto just the normal rehab. And this is where people make estimating repairs a lot more difficult than it has to be, right? And they try to look at it and say, how do I repair this house? And they're like, it's a standard rehab, but there's structural damage and there's mold. And now they're trying to intermingle all of these things together. And the easiest way to do it is to just simply separate them and say, let's do a standard rehab, and then let's tackle the big 5. And so in this particular case, it was probably about a $7,500 additional repair.
Yep.
I think what I anticipated we'd do is probably dig like some trenches straight out from the foundation wall, put some counterforts in, just solidify the wall so it doesn't move anymore. And then from the foundation level, we just we jacked up and shimmed the house back into level.
Yeah, crank it back into place.
Yeah, we just shimmed it back into level. And so it wasn't a big deal, probably $7,500. And so we accounted for that in the price, which the seller knew. It was a vacant house. The seller knew that there was a structural issue. And, everybody thinks that a structural issue is this $50,000 deal breaker.
Right.
It's oftentimes not. It's oftentimes pretty benign to fix. And so, like in certain parts of the country, a lot, foundation, like down into the Dallas area, foundation repair companies are oftentimes home buyers, right? And so,
For sure.
because they have the knowledge, the equipment, the team to go and do the repair,
And
they'll
so
buy
many
the
people
house,
hard
fix
pass.
it. And so many people hard pass.
They don't
right.
understand it.
Yeah, and in Dallas, it's a swelling soil issue, right?
Yep.
I don't know if it's bentonite down there. It's bentonite in Colorado.
Yeah.
There are veins that come off of the mountains that are highly expansive soils that'll mess a house up big time.
We looked at a house years ago, and it looked like somebody had buried, a baby whale under the basement over in Old Thornton.
Yeah.
And it had popped up and heaved that basement floor, big way.
I rehabbed. There's a couple. There's an old video on YouTube that I'll bet you this goes back to 2009 probably. But it was a video that I shot, and I walked people through a structural repair that we were doing to one of our rehab houses. This was a ranch house with a full basement, and the back foundation wall, the backyard kind of sloped up and away from the house. And so the
garage on the right-hand side as you pull up.
What color was the house?
Yellow.
Yep. You got it. So
this was my favorite. Side note, I nerd out on structural fixes.
yeah, so it was cool. It was cool.
Joe's laughing at me.
And so this
It was
house
totally cool.
Yeah. So I walked people through this house. But it probably cost us $8,000. We dug a trench.
Because the back wall was being pushed in.
The back wall was being pushed in.
And
right.
it was brilliant what they did.
Yeah, because the backyard sloped up, so the house behind sat maybe
all that pressure
6 to 8 feet higher than the house that we had bought.
Yep.
All the pressure, all the water, the moisture, the expansive soils, it pushed the wall in. And it was literally off kilter by maybe 1.5 inches, this concrete wall.
Yep.
And kind of snapped, right?
Yep.
And so many people looked at this deal and said, can't touch it, not going to touch it, won't do it. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's actually a pretty cheap repair.
Right.
And so what we ended up doing is we dug 2 trenches in the backyard, one right along the foundation wall to relieve the pressure.
Yep.
And then about 4 to 6 feet back from that first trench, we dug another trench along the line, the same line as the wall, so across the entire backyard. And then we dug a couple of trenches that connected those two. So think about almost a ladder. If you laid a ladder down on the backyard and dug the one side of the ladder, the other side of the ladder, and then all the rungs of the ladder, you dug all that out. That's what we did. And then we went and we poured a concrete wall. We called it a counterfort in that farthest out trench. And, think about this. We I don't know, it was probably 25 feet long, maybe 5 feet deep, and maybe a foot wide. So 25 by 5 is 125 by 1, 125 divided by 27. It was probably only, I'll bet you we used less than 6 yards of concrete. Okay? And concrete, I don't know, call it $150 a yard. I don't even know what concrete costs right now. But call it $150 a yard. So less than $1,000 we did this thing. We poured this concrete, and then we took some number 5 re-rod, threaded re-rod, and we drilled through the concrete.
Yep.
And we stuck the re-rod through. We drilled into the house, and then we threaded it down and tightened it up.
Cranked the wall back.
And we cranked the wall back.
So cool.
Then we just went and we filled in all the rest of the...
So the kids now playing soccer in that backyard have no clue there's a concrete anchor wall under them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was perfectly structurally sound.
Yep.
We fixed the house and it cost $8,000.
Yep.
So if you look at the house as a separate rehab and isolate the big five, i.e. the structural issue, again, structural mold, meth, asbestos, and termites. If you separate those repairs, now you've got a way to price that risk and those repairs into a deal.
Yep.
And pretty simple. I did another house in Broomfield, exact same scenario. And again, the backyard sloped up. There was kind of a higher water table, and that water just caused the structural damage to the house that I bought. We did the exact same repair.
Yeah.
Same price.
Anchor wall,
Yep.
crank it back.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, when people begin, as a wholesaler, you don't need to know how to do this, and you don't have to take the risk of doing this. But if you can get really good at your walk up, walk through, and walk around, and i.e. get really good at teaching your virtual boots on the ground,
Yep.
to give you that feedback and give you the assets that you need, the pictures and the video and the description to know what you're dealing with, you can then price deals accordingly and sell them, because there's no elephant in the room when a buyer drives by and calls you back.
Right.
That's the key.
And, valuable as you may never want to do a structural deal,
That's right.
but as a wholesaler, you have 2 or 3 buyers on your list
Yep.
that have the structural deal.
Yep.
And you know where to take them. Mm-hmm. You alluded to this a while ago, but there are buyers in every market
Totally.
looking for the structural deals, the fire damage.
Yep.
Because to 99% of the world, maybe it's a little bit lower than that, but like, ooh, structural, can't touch that.
Yep.
They're like, send it my way.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is $8,000, and
price clears all.
and a digger and some fun.
Exactly.
Honestly,
Yeah.
because it was cool to see it come together.
Hey, I want to shift gears.
Yep.
In this conversation. I think that was a cool little segment talking about that stuff. But I want to shift gears because I got a message from a real estate investor, an active investor, just before we went live on this show. And so for perspective for people listening, this is a guy that closed over 70 deals last year. The year before that, closed almost 150 deals. So he's an active operator. He's got a team. He's doing lots of different marketing, and he did go down from 2022 into 2023. He closed about 50 less deals,
Yep.
roughly, maybe almost 80 less deals, and so he sent me a message that says, "Hey, I feel like we're spending money on the wrong things." And so we went back and forth a little bit, and he said, and I'm just going to look at this. I feel like we're spending money on the wrong stuff. We're spending money on the wrong CRM. We're spending money on employees or team that are not being utilized in the right way, and on the wrong marketing. Okay. And so what he said is, his responsibility is lead generation. So his job is to drive the lead generation in the business, which is cool that he sent me this message, because that's up our wheelhouse. Not only have we done it for over 20 years for our own real estate investing businesses, but because of owning FreedomSoft and operating and working with FreedomSoft operators, we not only get to experience it, but we get to guide and have those conversations with others. So we get to experience it at a greater scale, what's working and what's not. So one of the conversations that he said was, look, we've done everything from TV to direct mail to PPC to bandit signs to some guerrilla marketing stuff, and his goal is to lower his ad spend and increase his profit per deal. And inside of his current CRM, and he's using a Salesforce type CRM right now, a skin for real estate investors of Salesforce. He said, I just don't have the transparency, and I'm trying to figure out how to, number one, lower costs and increase results. And so the point of this was him coming to me saying, hey, we're thinking about switching CRMs. And we used FreedomSoft in the past for a season when we had a challenge with another CRM. We came into FreedomSoft, but then ultimately they were sold a dream of something else that was, much more expensive, looked a lot, looked fancy.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, his comment to me was, it's expensive and we're not getting the value out of it. And so I said, we can help you. Number one, FreedomSoft can be plug and play. If you want to track your marketing and track it well, we can help you. If you want to use our list building tools, like one of the comments that he said was his, how did he word it exactly? He stopped direct mail because it never worked well enough. Which that statement tells me right there, something is wrong in his direct mail approach, whether it be list building, whether it be the mailer pieces that he's sending to certain lists, whether it's the geography he's targeting, whether it's the call to action on the mailer piece itself,
right,
whether it's the follow-up, that's the inconsistency potentially. A lot of times people buy a list, send direct mail. Then they refresh their list and send direct mail. Then they refresh their list and send direct mail. With direct mail, it takes 7 to 9 touches for the ROI to start stepping up on your direct mail results. And that doesn't mean you're not making money along the way, but for you to start seeing direct mail as a viable, highly profitable means of deal getting, consistency is the name of the game. And so, Mike, as I'm dropping these things from this conversation, I'm like,
yep,
number one, okay, we can totally help this guy.
Yep.
And help his business. Like, our systems can take you from 70 back to 150 deals a year, from 150 to 200 deals a year. And what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where the money's being made in the market you're investing in.
Yep.
Now, this is an investor that is not going wide in their business. They're not trying to skim the easy deals off of 2, 3, 5, 7 different virtual markets. They're trying to go deep in their market. So they're trying to be better. They need to slice with a laser rather than shoot with a shotgun, right?
Right.
And so we can help coach that person. And this guy specifically to get exactly those results. I brought up the direct mail because he said it. They stopped direct mail.
Yep.
Direct mail is the number one thing that we see people have success with.
Yep.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think someone that is an operator at 100 deal a year operation stops direct mail?
My guess would be inconsistency in it. I was helping a guy the last couple days. FreedomSoft user, built a custom, he's on our Mail Now Premium, built a custom direct mail sequence. It has 12 postcards in it. That's the one he's using. I was like, this guy gets it.
Yep.
I'm going to go build a list. How many times are you going to hit them? Once, twice? Nope. Built 12. Yes.
Now, let me ask you this. So this guy, did he use some of the mailers right out of our templates? And then
Yeah.
did he use our design studio and build his own too?
I think it was a mix of both. I didn't look at every one. I just remember seeing it going, I love this. I love seeing this.
Yeah.
I think it was a combination, but it was mostly he just pulled them out of the ones we built.
Yeah.
Or I was working with another guy today. This was today. So that guy with the 12 steps was over the last couple of days, but I was on this morning.
Yeah.
With a guy, and he said, I really like this postcard, but the headline's a little off. And I was like, fantastic. What do you want the headline to say?
Yeah.
And so we took the foundation that we built. It was a pre-foreclosure card. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to go immediately target a pre-foreclosure list. He just wanted it to be a little bit more general. Hey, do you want to turn your house into cash?
Yep.
Right? But he's like, I really like this one. Fantastic. Copied it.
Pushed it into the design studio,
Yep.
edited the template.
Edited it. Yeah, I was like, hey, what do you want to say?
Done.
And I was giving him a little input, a little back and forth. I've built some templates before, and we doctored it up, and we were in and out of there in a couple minutes. And I was like, do you like how that looks? He's like, that's killer.
Yeah.
Like, great.
And then boom, add it to the sequence and you're done.
Save it. I did that for him too on the way out.
Yeah.
Just I said, man, I'm gonna hook you up.
See, that's the thing. Direct mail, and this is why I brought this up, right? There's zero question in my mind that we can help this guy go from the 70 back to, the 150 and then beyond. Zero question in my mind. And part of it is going to be dialing in both the geographic targeting, like where is he actually looking for deals,
Yep.
and what marketing mediums is he using to do it? What audience is he going after? How is he building his list and segmenting his list? And then what does his lead generation automation look like? And what does his follow-up automation look like?
That's exactly it.
See, here's two things. And I mean, we could do a whole show on this, but I think that people don't think about automation separated between those two sides. Automation is automation on the lead gen side and automation on the follow-up side. You've got to have both. You're going to do automation to your prospecting lists, and you're going to have automation to your leads.
That's right.
And too many people focus on automation to their leads, but they miss the automation to their prospecting list. And they then wonder why they don't have a pipeline. Why don't I have consistent deal flow? Why don't I have a pipeline of opportunities that are dripping in regularly? Well, it's because on the lead generation side, the front end side of your business, you're relying on human interaction, manual effort, a brain to remember to do it.
That's right.
And people just don't do that. And so you've got to put the human element always fails, right? And unless you build a system that is reminder, but that's task heavy and that's workload heavy. Use automation on the front end, use automation on the back end. Here's a stat that I share. In fact, I shared it in an email the other day. 2/3 of deals that close because of follow-up.
Right.
2/3 of deals that close because of follow-up.
I remember you told me that a long time ago.
And that's follow-up on leads.
On leads. That's right.
So if you actually looked at the automation and the follow-up on the prospecting side of the list and not just the follow-up on the leads,
I've seen people do it both ways.
That number even skyrockets more.
I'm really automated on the prospecting, and
Yep.
then once leads comes in, I either close the deal or forget about them.
Right.
I've seen that countless times.
Yep.
And then I've seen the other. Oh, I forgot to do my marketing, but I've got this handful of leads, and now I'm just peppering these people.
Yep.
It's got to be both.
Yep. Yeah, I think if somebody's trying to go deep in their market, they need to get good at geographic targeting inside of their market. And a lot of people, when they're trying to go deep in their market and go from closing 3 deals a month to 7 deals a month, 7 to 12, 12 to 20 deals a month, and they think of the depth, they think about, okay, I got to do all of these additional things of marketing. And you do. In order to go from 3 to 20 deals a month, you've got to add new channels of marketing. You've got to have new lead generation. You need to cast a wider net.
Yep.
But what a lot of times people do is they cast a wider net via their geography, and they generalize their list building. And what that ends up causing is it drives direct mail costs through the roof. And all of a sudden, they went from closing a handful of deals at a relatively good cost per deal to closing a few more deals, but the cost per deal skyrockets. And so the margin shrinks or disappears.
Yep.
And it's because they generalized their geography and they generalized the audience. What you have to do is you have to keep a specialized and a very targeted geography and a specialized and very targeted audience. If you can do those two things and you can grow your marketing prospecting list without losing the specificity of the list, right? If you generalize, you're going to spend too much money and you're going to quit direct mail. If you stay focused, if you specialized but scale the audience size up, you will actually see exponential results in using direct mail. We see it all the time.
And it's automated.
So, this was the kind of the shift towards the end of the show that I just wanted to bring up, because I got this message right before we jumped on here. And, I can almost predict exactly what I would see if I looked inside of this gentleman's CRM. I would see an attempt at organization. I would see an attempt at automation. But I would see probably a system that is a bit cumbersome and a bit hard to look at and say, what do I have here?
Right.
And what do I do next to extract out of it? Right. Most people end up automating chaos in their business. Right. The fancy, shiny, automated thing looks good until your team is too afraid to push a button or update a record or touch something because they're not sure what's going to trigger automation. Right.
Yep.
And so we always take the approach that you need to automate or organize before you automate.
Yep.
And then we look at the buckets of your business, like where does the automation need to be applied? And it's not just I'm going to automate my business. It's, well, let's break it down. Let's break down automation on the lead generation side. Let's break down automation on the transaction management side, your workflows. Let's break down automation on the lead follow-up and conversion. Let's look at the categories inside of your business that need automation, but let's start with a bucket of prospects or a bucket of leads that are well organized, so that even if there was zero automation, you could go in and select a group or a cohort of records and do something to them right now.
Right. And if you're not organized, you can't find that group.
And if you're not organized, you can't find that group.
Right. Because they're just in there somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, we have story after story after story of people coming off of, every other system into FreedomSoft, the visual leads dashboard in FreedomSoft, all of a sudden giving somebody a transparent look into their entire world of prospects and leads.
Yep.
And then grabbing that group of records, doing some marketing to them or putting them into a cold call campaign or doing some follow-up activity to these previously semi-lost opportunities and closing deals almost immediately.
The paydays are already there.
Yeah.
They've been, with that kind of volume, they easily have 30, 40, 50, 60,000 records.
Yep.
If that's not organized, that is like the biggest walk-in junk closet you can think of that you have to clean out at some point, but you're not going anywhere near it.
That's right.
But once it is organized, you can say, oh, look at these 100. These are from a year ago. Look at these 75. Look at these 1,500. Look at this. We only hit this once. What about?
Yep.
And you click on some automation in these little segments, and that's
most
toward
people,
what you're talking about.
Mike, most people, most real estate investors never get their business or someone on their team to the place where they are just a lead management pro. And it takes being a lead management pro in this business to really, especially as you scale. And, here we're talking about a gentleman who closes north of 100 deals a year.
Right.
That business, that operation needs somebody that is just a lead management pro, somebody kind of keeping their visual eye on the lists and the campaigns and the workspaces and kind of what's going on. It doesn't have to be hard, because if you organize and then automate as we teach, it doesn't have to be hard, but somebody's got to have in that business their eyes on it. And most businesses, and we see this often, most businesses don't have that person. And so what ends up happening is when they make the decision, okay, I'm going to move from wherever I'm at onto FreedomSoft because they've listened to our story about organization and automation, and we talk about how we help operators structure their business, they work with you. They work with other people on the team. They work with me, and we live, eat, breathe, sleep this stuff every day. So we see every type of system out there, and we can show people how to take what they have that feels like disorganized, automated chaos, and we can bring it into a system that puts it on a dashboard, and all of a sudden you see what you otherwise were missing. And your business just transforms before your eyes. But it takes working with guys and gals like us who do this on the daily, because in most real estate investors' businesses, there is not somebody that is trained, skilled, or thinking about lead organization and automation in the same way that we do it. So we get to teach those high volume operators a different way of approaching their business.
Yep.
Makes it fun.
So effective.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I think we are going to bring this one to a wrap. I think we talked about a lot of cool stuff today. If you got value out of that, we would love to hear from you. Like and subscribe and share this out on social media if you think somebody needs to hear this show. I'm Rob Swanson, and we will see you guys on the next one. Cheers. Hey friends, Rob Swanson here. Let me jump in and talk to you really quick about the Real Estate Mogul Academy. You might be sitting back listening to this and saying, how do I get in proximity with these guys? How do I have these kind of conversations, water cooler, hallway conversations every single day to help me go where I want to go in my real estate investing business? Whether you're just getting started or you're already a seasoned pro trying to elevate and go to that next step, the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be for you. What we'd like to do is offer you a free strategy session where someone from my team will jump on the phone. We'll talk about where you are, where you want to go, and how the Real Estate Mogul Academy might be the right fit for you. If you're saying to yourself, that sounds great, let's do it, go to mogulmembers.com, fill out your name and your contact information, and let's jump on the phone and let's chat. Let's see if we can help you go where you want to go this year.